Okay. Oh, it must be 11 a.m. Thank you everyone for coming this morning. Let us open our meeting if you have our agendas. Let's see, we could have room introductions, I believe. We're having room introductions. Chris, do you want to start?
Chris Ogren, Houseless Response Analyst.
I'm Eric Crop, Deschutes County Deputy County Administrator.
Keith Kowski, Redmond City Manager.
Patty Adair, Deschutes County Commissioner.
Megan Perkins, she, her, Bend City Councilor.
Kat Zwicker, Redmond City Councilor. Andrea Blum, Sister City Councilor.
Linda Klein, Redmond Housing Coordinator.
Terry Foster, City of Sisters Assistant City Manager.
Bill Chang, Deschutes County Commissioner.
Yes.
Anna Kowinski, Ben Bulletin.
Thank you, Anna.
Tammy Faney, COIC. Mickey Durden, City of Bend. Carissa Heineke, Deschutes County Public Health Emergency Preparedness Coordinator.
And Marissa Cummings, Deschutes County Health Services Emergency Preparedness.
Thank you all for joining us.
How about Angie?
Angie.
Angie Towers, CC Office.
Okay, wonderful. Then we need to go to our minutes, attachment A. I did notice there is one correction on governance on COIC has been transposed, so we just need to correct that one.
Okay.
Did anyone else see any other corrections to the minutes? We have a motion, please, then?
Move to approve the minutes from the June 15th meeting.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And I just wanted to know, I believe Mayor Richards joining via Zoom.
Oh. Is he on?
Don't have them on yet. Eric King.
Okay, and I just spoke with him briefly and he said that his Zoom was updating, so he should be in soon, but I'll make sure to note that he's not here for that though.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, we do, as I was talking to you before we started the meeting, we have a draft letter that was emailed to you last night. We would appreciate some feedback from the Churro Board on that letter. I was gonna maybe take a few minutes away from each of our presentations, so we stayed on task with this meeting. But we can hit that after we do item number 4, perhaps. So that letter, you have a copy of it that you can take a check. I have a Zoom call this afternoon at 3 p.m. with Director Taylor Smiley Wolf, who runs housing for the governor. And we're working back and forth with the governor on doing something managed outside the city boundaries, which the governor is concerned about. And, you know, in our county, we have people that are unwilling to go into managed services inside. So I'm working on we're getting across that bridge and having the governor allow us to do a couple of managed camps outside. We've got the Gales property on the east side of town. There's 45 acres in Redmond within the UGB. And then there's some other property that we're thinking about. So that's why we'll discuss it in a bit, if you have a chance to read over that. So item number 3, let's see, this is Vice Chair Perkins, Zwicker, and Ricker. Do you guys want to go ahead with item number 3?
Sure. We met last Friday to go over the feedback that we had received from particularly the service provider community on the strategic plan. There is a sheet in your packet that talks about some of that feedback. There wasn't a lot of feedback, and I think that some of that is that many of the service providers were involved with the original task force plan, or had already contributed or given feedback prior. So we didn't really actually change anything. We really again, but yeah.
The last Friday's meeting, it was a public meeting, so it was open for further comment and participation. And basically, Mayor Richter had a conflict and did not attend, so Megan and I just moved forward with the strategic plan as presented at the last meeting, and I think that it's a very good starting point to go forward with.
One of the things that that I'd like to highlight is we talked about that the original task force plan had, you know, a vision and, you know, and we talked about that we're not quite there yet, you know, and this is, you know, to submit this to the state as here are 5 priorities and, once we can start talking about implementation and get a little bit further along, with the coordinated office, then maybe that would be an arena we could move into, but, we felt the subcommittee comfortable submitting these 5 priorities to the state ahead of the end of summer deadline, and just wanted to see if there was any other concerns or changes that you'd like to be made, or if we feel comfortable approving it today.
Oh, I did have a question. So 1,000 people were asked to provide, how many people actually did?
Very small, just a handful.
What's a handful, like 10?
So we sent the survey out to about 1,000 people. We had 2 responses to the survey, and then Mickey and I followed up with some community members in one-off meetings, and we spoke with probably 5 people that way, and then Mickey sent out a series of emails, and I think we heard back from about 10 folks via email.
About a dozen.
Can I ask, when you did reach out to people, had they not previously responded because they felt we wouldn't listen? Or they were thinking it was already good and there was no need to? What was the thinking behind it?
Yeah, if you can remember back in February, March, this office tried to present a different strategic plan and people came out of the woodwork and said, you know, they preferred this strategic plan, the original
Right.
emergency homelessness task force plan. And so when we reached out to them, generally, they were like, no further comments. And because they didn't have further comments, they probably believed they didn't need to provide input. But when probed some more, just to make sure, want to make sure you had this in front of you, that you have an opportunity to provide input. Some of them still said, yeah, no, thank you, no further input.
Okay, so no negative, well, I didn't, it's a
Yes.
waste of my time kind of stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And
And then prior to that, if you, we went through like a year and a half of
Sure.
task force meetings, one-on-one, and went to the community, public stakeholders, including the education, business community, and got their buy-in on the strategic plan. So we've been through this since spring, summer of 2021.
Great. When so many people are offered an option and they don't respond, it's, you kind of go,
You wonder,
"Hmm,
yeah,
what was going on there?" Okay, thank you.
So that's really like 17 people.
Yeah,
So when you
Yeah.
add it all up.
so
Okay,
great.
that's what I was
Great.
wondering.
My only comments on it were, I tried to shake my head and say, okay, I don't know anything about this. Let's read
Yeah.
through this as a novice and what kinds of things do it. We do use a couple of acronyms, the PSH and the AMI, which we're all
Very
familiar
good
with,
point.
but it's, we need to spell those out at least one time.
Yes,
So-
thank you so much
Yeah.
for catching that.
I will fix that.
We love our acronyms,
I
don't
know.
we?
Yeah, well, it shortens things.
Yeah, but
Makes
absolutely
it
correct.
but it
Makes
does-
people feel like
It
they don't
actually
know as much.
eliminates the public from really knowing what we're
Right,
talking about.
exactly.
Which is really, it was like RRH this morning, I had asked Chris what that was.
Yeah.
So I'm like going, is that like a place I don't know about
Yeah,
in Redmond?
No, it's true, it's,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's an excellent catch.
Great, other than that, superb. Starting place.
I did note at the very last, priority number 5, increase voucher access and utilization. I've heard the story about someone who actually has a job. They don't have the scoring in order to get into the Rainbow Motel. They're at that navigation center, but they actually have a job and they're working. And I'm just wondering, voucher access, is there any way we can get that a little more oomph in today's world?
Well, is it, vouchers, that's for housing, I mean, it's not so that wouldn't be for the rainbow.
That's more Section 8 type housing.
Voucher access is
Yeah.
for permanent supportive housing through Section 8 vouchers, generally through Housing Works, Neighbor Impact.
But what
Yeah,
about
there's-
this woman who's got a job, she's working, but she
So
She's
that
still,
would be
she's still
different.
at the navigation
That
center.
would be
How do we
different
help
than
her?
voucher access, so that's a different goal.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
where's-
the continuum of
where's-
care.
That's more under the
I mean,
continuum of care.
Yeah, trying to think.
Where would that be?
Improve access to all types of shelter.
Yeah, that would be above it, under
uh,
priority for access to all types of shelter. So what we're looking at is that's one of those gaps that you've identified. And so we have to figure out how we can help, mend that gap, because often what happens is you get income and then you either no longer qualify for your SNAP, or you no longer qualify for your housing voucher. And it does create the exact gap you're talking about just by having a job. So that's under probably improve access to all types of shelter.
Yeah.
We need to look at rental assistant models there.
Well, it was just like I'm meeting a homeless woman in Sisters who is emphatic that she's staying in Sisters. Monday, I met her Sunday, Monday she has a job, but it's like, Andrew, what can you do in Sisters? I scoured the paper, the Nugget looking for something.
Oh, yeah, nothing,
There's nothing there.
until if they're not eligible for a voucher, there is housing there, but you
Is it
gotta get on the
helpful?
list.
Is it
Yeah.
helpful though?
Oh, I don't know for positive, but I think it fills up it rather quickly. We're looking at building some more, but until that happens,
Well,
there's nothing available.
and I'd like to know, I think one of the issues with voucher utilization is that the property has to cost as much as like the HUD FMR rates, and I don't know what the FMR acronym stands for, I'm sorry, but it's low, right? So like in Bend, I think it's like $1,200 or $1,300 a month, and so the challenge is like finding a unit that actually costs as much as a voucher will give you, because you're not allowed to use it for that $1,300 and then pay the difference, right? And so I think that the CHRO could have a role in like a landlord incentive, like creating a landlord incentive program, or working with housing developers to like create smaller, more affordable units so that the vouchers could actually be utilized.
And
Because the issue,
FMR is fair market rent.
thank you.
And we do have, in Sisters, we have a group that is working with a developer to set aside 2 to 4 units for this exact purpose. And they got the funding through this latest funding trunk that we got
Right.
from the governor's office.
I saw that.
So you can't make up the difference.
That's what we've been told.
No, that you can't. A perfect example, I know a young woman, she's 27, she has a housing voucher. The difference between the apartment she has found and the voucher itself is $4 a month. And they are denying her the property over $4.
And there
She
is,
can't make it up.
there is a process that we've heard about briefly, that like you can go to the feds and argue that the FMRs are not appropriate for our region. So that's something else that we could explore. And I did want to note that Mayor Richer has his hand raised as well.
Oh, good, great.
Can you
Yeah,
hear
go
me?
ahead.
Yes, we can.
Oh, thank you so very much. Sorry I had to attend telephonically today, and I'm very sorry that family differences kind of dictated that I couldn't be there last time, but I really plan on being very active. At some point or another, in number 3 of our 5 designated things, expand services, expand additional services. Are these things that we will designate, or are these things that we hope that our service providers will designate?
I think, Dan, if we go down to point 2 under expand access, it's expand coordinated entry by service providers. I think these are things where, again, our job as a coordinated homeless response office is to support existing providers and fill those gaps. Not create, well, hopefully find new solutions, but turn them over.
No, this would be
qualified.
number 3.
This is priority number 3,
Yes,
where it says expand access to services. If you go down to bullet point number 2.
it just says expand services.
I don't know.
On
expand
Access to services.
on the proposed,
Do you see the
round.
bullet points underneath it?
Well, it's a separate page. It says support service providers, and then it goes to the next page for priority number 3. If you want to look at the next page.
I am on there. Right.
oh, I found the next page. Thank you so much.
Okay, it's on the next page.
Does that answer your question, Dan?
Yes, it says expanding services for people experiencing or at risk. Priority number 3.
Yeah, expanding services for people experiencing or at risk of homelessness. Yep.
Right, so we have no designation authority to ask providers to expand specific services if we felt that they were needed.
No, that's, I would say, that because they're independent, mostly 501c3 providers, I don't know that we can tell them what to do, but we can support them, we can ask, we can provide services, just, make what they're doing like a part-time person to help with point in time counts, somebody to do intake information. These are things I think that are within the ability of our board. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but we're not creating and recreating the wheel. We're supporting.
Sure, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dan. Okay,
So beyond the acronyms, is there anything else that anything else that anyone sees that they either,
Did we want to add to improve access to all types of shelter and add under that the third bullet point for investigate and support rental assistance programs or rental gap programs? Because that's what we're talking about, some sort of ability to create something that doesn't impact a voucher, but helps people get in the door.
a bigger issue is people that are actually renting at this moment in time, such as the woman who works at Albertsons, and they just raised her rent $200 a month. So how is she gonna be able to afford to stay,
There's a reference to vouchers under priority number 5.
yeah,
Yeah, and those were for the housing vouchers. Yeah, we could put
Right.
it there as well.
But I mean, what about preventing people from going into homelessness, what is the rent increase allowed in today's world?
That was just passed by the latest.
I know, do you
bill.
have that number on the top of your head?
It caps at 10%.
Because somebody was I just had a call this morning from
It caps
someone.
at 10%.
Their
What's
rent's-
gonna happen is everybody is going to seek, and it's only allowed one time a year. So that's incentivized every single property owner that has rental properties
To go
do-
up 10%,
to
right?
go up 10%, correct.
Now, somebody who just was told their rent was going up 14%. That was my conversation this morning.
That was the last.
that was the last,
The last
yeah,
one.
it-
And so they've done the correction. I don't know when the correction goes, the exact date. I would
So
just- I would-
14 was okay at the time,
But
but now it's
now they've
future
revised it.
ones will be
Okay, so they
10.
got it down,
So they
Under the
slid it
wire.
in under the wire. Yep.
Do you
Which
know that-
again was the incentive.
do you know the date then? Are they still gonna have to pay that 14% cut?
I don't know. I don't do property management per se, so I
Okay,
would
so
call
we
it.
should check with the
I
property
would check
manager
with the
then.
property manager because they'll have all those hard dates.
Okay, all right, because I just thought, oh my gosh, 14% is really significant.
But that's why they did it, Patty, is everybody saw the new rule coming down.
Mhm.
So they captured the 14, and then that next one gives them a one-time increase for another 10% once a year. So it's pretty, it helps, but it doesn't, because it incentivizes landlords who weren't necessarily going to do it, to take that so they don't lose the opportunity.
Right, they
to
have
do
the
it.
max, yes.
Mhm.
That's what happens.
Um,
Any other comments, guys?
maybe we wanted, if I'm just looking at like the point 2, advocate for increased 0 to 30 AMI housing options, maybe, we put some kind of rental assistant or, some kind of bullet there about rental assistance or housing stability, or, I'm just trying to spitball here.
I mean,
Because we're
again,
saying we want to advocate for it,
We
and we
wanna
can't, obviously,
advocate.
the office cannot
create it.
create it or even fund it.
But going back to the federal limits and the
Yep.
things we need to do, we do need to advocate for increases in this area.
So like advocacy or supporting
Mhm.
prevention, rehousing, kind of those main things that the state's investing in.
Mhm.
I can
And
add that.
I know we don't have it in here. This was the thing that was on the top of my head, so I apologize because I didn't bring it up prior. We should also have a piece under here, to basically prevent homelessness, which would be advocating for, pre-foreclosure strategies. Because oftentimes, by the time somebody's in foreclosure, it's too late, but there's a lot of things that can happen in the year to 180 days before they hit that wall. And so I think that would be another good piece to add and to get those people up and in place.
Well, it's the financially diligent thing to do, and responsible thing to do to, I mean, that's one thing that Cheyenne always talked about, it's a few $100s to someone to get them from getting evicted, and or from foreclosed upon. It is a lot cheaper than getting them off the streets later on.
Well, originally that funding to the back was really quite, or the numbers were significant, and then they cut it back because they said it wasn't really enough. But I do believe in our world today that it's really important. So Chris, somehow we can add that.
Yeah, I will add a piece to advocate and support prevention.
Thank you.
And there was actually language in the original emergency homelessness task force strategic plan that refers to that.
Yeah.
Good tool.
Cool.
Great.
Okay,
And
great.
we pulled it because, do we
This was
remember?
a little bit more high level. and
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we were trying not to get too far in the
Okay.
weeds
Yeah.
with we're doing, but these are things that
Those are important
obvious,
things.
Yeah.
the prevention and there's not a lot of programs available for the prevention of homelessness.
Absolutely.
So I think that if we kind of start there and keep people from ending up where it's really difficult to rehouse them, that's the really important part. Because once you're evicted on a rental, once you get a foreclosure, that financing piece becomes impossible, and people don't want to look at you as compared to somebody else because you have these dings in your history. So it almost
Absolutely.
pushes
Oh,
you
yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Anything else that we need to add?
I'm sorry.
Dan, do you see anything else?
Nope.
So do we feel comfortable voting with those changes, agree that those changes will be made, or would you like to see a final version? And we vote next month? Or-
I feel comfortable if we just make those changes, because those are obviously, they're just avocation.
And I can send the edited document to you guys for review before we submit it to the state, if that would.
That would be excellent.
I'm
Would
fine
you do
with
that,
that.
Chris?
And we can amend it as we go along.
Can't
Exactly.
indeed.
So
It's
no,
not set
no
in
sense
stone.
dragging our feet.
There we go.
Living documents.
And I move, we accept the strategic plan with the changes as mentioned.
Second.
Any other further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, sounds like a plan. All right.
That's exciting.
And between Nikki, Chris, and I will coordinate to make sure that it gets, after it gets reviewed by the board members, we'll make sure to coordinate and get it submitted to the state.
Yeah, because the sooner we can get that in case they want to send it back for revision, it'd be fabulous.
You got it.
Okay, and then we are next to, this is good, strategic planning discussion. And on the last page of that document, it's to support within the 5-year strategic plan. It would be nice if we could have a space in between 5 and year. That's on the last page. And the only thing I would like the Homeless Leadership Coalition to be a liaison on our board. And not actually not as a
Voting
member, but
member.
as a liaison.
Yeah, I thought we had,
I thought we'd done that.
I thought we had
I
agreed on
thought
that
we
too.
had.
Okay, I was
Yeah,
like,
I had it marked as well.
That's
oh,
fine.
no, okay, thank you
Because we
guys.
didn't
I
want to
was
have an
like,
even number.
okay,
Right.
I know, then we had a whole new story, but definitely having them and with so Chris, you want to make that
Yep,
change, please?
I will make the
I
change.
think, is that okay with you, Dan?
Yes, I think that, are we speaking about Kevin?
No, we're just talking about a liaison from the Homeless Leadership Coalition. That person will be determined by them, perhaps Eliza.
Yes,
Okay,
that's fine.
are there any other,
Okay, I had a little more trouble with this document.
Okay.
Trying to, look at it and say, do I understand the differences here? Between the Charro Governing Board, Charro Office, and Charro Advisory Board. There are a couple of spots where we say Charro when we mean Charro Governing Board. And it's not particularly consistent in that regard. But you can, it's under a category that talks about the governing board, so you kind of, I could tell that that was what the intent was, but
Should we just refer to it as?
Can
yeah,
you
let's
see, did you mark it in,
Yeah.
did you mark it so we can see
Let's-
what you're talking?
let's see, no, I
Okay,
had it
says-
on I didn't have a paper copy, so I didn't
Okay.
have a place to mark it.
Where it says
Um,
attendance policy, it says all board members, so does that mean
Try to-
governing board
advancing.
members?
Okay, just
What's-
like under roles and responsibility, oh, well, let's see.
It's at the bottom of page 2 of it. I would say maybe where it says all board members that we could,
Always just say governing, yeah.
Yeah.
If we're talking.
yeah, that's,
Yeah, so I mean, that needs to be,
that would be an addition there. And then we're,
right, I see that doesn't.
and the
okay.
next meeting,
The
public
governing
meetings, that should
board.
be governing board
Yeah.
again.
Right, yeah, so it goes through, that's
And-
it.
Governing board.
And then we've got addition to governing board members in the notice, we could add it there.
Yeah.
And then regular meetings
Oh,
governing,
yeah.
yeah, there's a whole bunch of spots.
I
Yeah,
would just source the, where it says board and then see if govern should be inserted in this.
Because there is, here when we talk about. So we say committee and then we put parentheses advisory board. Oh, there's also.
Instead of advisory board, can we call it the advisory committee, and that would eliminate
Right.
the dysfunction?
Yes,
Okay.
Good idea. And I think it's great because there are 15 people on that group.
right,
I think that's really
Yeah, it's-
outstanding.
yeah, it makes sense. Another, when it talks about the authority of the governing board does not manage the Charle office. Who does?
The actual office is what we were talking about doing the, kind of the project management under COIC. COIC and their staff.
Okay, that's what I assumed. Does that need to, and that,
Should that be
well,
clarified
these
there?
are our governing board
Right.
bylaws, so it's not
Right.
COICs or
No,
not, or
those are ours.
the counties.
okay, so it doesn't need to be pointed out, okay. The governing board is a liaison to the advisory committee. What does that mean?
It's, you know, that we appoint members to this committee and then that we're participate as we can in their meetings and. I mean, you know, sort of,
So as a liaison, one of these, our board members would actually attend their meetings and bring back, so they don't have to attend every one of our meetings. The liaison should be
Right.
bringing back what the information from the advisory committee was.
So is a liaison member to the advisory board? Or,
no, well, they're non-voting, so the advisory committee, so.
right, to the advisory committee, we're gonna switch the name,
Yeah.
okay,
So if they're not voting
wasn't-
on anything, I don't think,
Okay,
I wouldn't think we need to call it out as voting or non-voting member.
and the HLC will select the board, governing board member that they choose, but that member will be non-voting. Who will staff the governing board?
Governing board,
Us. Who will staff us?
the office.
Okay, and so the Charle office will have staffing that will staff. And who will staff the advisory committee?
Someone from, yeah,
They will take care,
Coordinated
responsibility for their own staffing?
yeah,
And they will have meetings that are public meetings? Or will they, is that up to them?
I guess they would not technically need to be public, right?
If they're not elected.
As long as they don't have two members of
Right.
this
Yeah.
board attending.
Right,
So that's not our issue, how they
No.
conduct we will
Their
appoint them.
purpose is for them to come back to us with actual tangible experience and things to help us make our
Right.
decisions.
Okay,
I mean, I would imagine they would want to make their meetings available, but they don't
right.
legally have to.
and so we are not dictating to the advisory committee How often they meet, how they meet, who their staff are, that's up to them. Once we appoint members to it, we're not giving them rules and guidelines by which they will work.
I think the office, once it's established, will probably do a little bit more of that because they're gonna work a little bit more on tasks, just like any other governance board. Our staff will say, these are the tasks that the board has set before us. These are the things we need to discover. Advisory board, help us with this because we don't have experience in filling gaps. Program management, incident management, what are the best ways to get this done? Then they'll come back to, set up a task force basically through the advisory board, come back to us with some data. And then we can make decisions based on that. Because like you said in previous meetings, we don't have the bandwidth or ability to be in all places at all times. So we're gonna have to take field experts and, basically have them assist us with moving forward. And that's part of the reason why we've looked at realigning the office with an area that already has all those irons in the fire with HLC and Neighbor Impact and Thrive and Fuse. And so in the ongoing process, we're getting real-time information.
Okay,
And that's the roles and responsibilities for the advisory committee are listed there.
Right.
okay, but that's going to be working with the Charles office mostly.
Yes.
Okay, that wasn't clear to me. In the governor's letter, they were, she was very concerned about our relationship with the MAC committee.
Our.
No, that was the county's.
Well, the county's
relationship.
relationship.
That's not us,
Yes.
that's the
Yeah.
county.
Okay,
We're gonna
Yeah.
discuss that in a minute.
Don't,
Okay.
I was
yeah,
gonna say,
just
let's
don't
jump
borrow somebody else's trouble.
okay. Okay, so I didn't see it referenced in here and I was wondering where all
No,
that was gonna, okay.
It'll be in the next 3 minutes.
Yeah, okay, well, time that, appointed by, okay, the date it says that we did the committee was July 13th. Of course, we haven't done it yet, so the advisory committee, so that needs to change.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah, under roles and responsibilities,
Good point.
that's
Good
where the
notice.
Charro board needs to be added.
We might just want to take out. We could say maybe each member of the advisory committee will serve a 2-year term following a vote by the board or something, governing board or something like that, just so that we don't have a date in there, because we don't know when we're going to be able to vote on these advisory, just.
But it is really important to stagger, so maybe half of
Yes.
them have a 2-year term and the other half a
Yes,
3-year
absolutely.
But I don't know that we need, whether we need to delineate that in here or not.
Well,
but
we say
could.
staggered to be discussed.
Yes,
So I would say
okay.
2
Yeah.
and 3. I know that's a little.
How about 2 and 1? Some people can dip a toe in the water and then we'll replace them.
Okay, and then, or how many times can they be reappointed to? 2 and 1?
I don't, does it,
I would say maybe we don't impose term limits.
on the
athletes.
advisory committee, I would not impose term limits. I think that's not necessary. Again, it's not an elected position, it's a.
And then under funds granted, the last bullet, second to the last is I think it should be if excess funds available as opposed to in. Eligible use would be to support the delivery of homeless services. So the last one would
Oh,
be
yeah.
under it
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
make that make
that-
sense.
You're right, that makes, there's just a colon sitting there, yes.
And when we talk about our agenda packet coming out, we say 72 hours, which is like the Monday before the Thursday meeting. If it's available, I would really appreciate it the Friday before the Thursday meeting because all of my research time is on the weekend. By the time I get it on Monday, it is a struggle to get it.
Well, and that's like getting
Critically.
documents at 5 PM the day before we come. I mean,
nobody
that's an
wants to do that, but
unacceptable
I know
addition
sometimes it
unless it's
has to be.
emergency
We're sorry we
provided
had to do
by
that
our-
last night. We're sorry we had to do that
Yeah.
last night about the letter, but
Yeah, I mean, if it's possible.
Okay.
And I know it isn't always going to be possible, but that it would certainly help. Let me see if I've got.
and you did
anything
get the
else.
5-year, you split that up in that last to support the delivery of homeless services. So it's gonna say 5 then year.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
Yes.
I mentioned that earlier. I know I was going, I did. Okay, are there any other comments? Dan, do you have any comments?
No, I think we're proceeding quite well.
Should we then consider seeing it again next month with all of these changes made, since it looks like there's some, it's not just
Yeah.
cosmetic, it's a little bit more than that? How do you all feel about that, or
Is that gonna pull us into,
the bylaws are,
The bylaws.
the bylaw, yeah, they're
I
not
would
there.
like, I would like to review them prior to
Yeah.
the next meeting, just in case anything else
Yep.
filters out after we do our
Yep.
semantics.
Okay, so we'll review again next month, review the updated changes. All right, so, sorry, do you mind just taking a brief second on the letter, response to the governor? Just asking for the support of this group when I have my conversation with Taylor this afternoon. Collaboration is incredibly important. I spoke this morning to a commissioner from Multnomah County, and she's saying, well, how do all the groups feel about what you all are working on? So that's really why we want you to be aware of this letter and what we're looking at. And it was, thank you to Eric for putting this together with this team. The really amazing news is we've actually done like 400,000 for Oasis Village plus the land. We've done 200,000 for safe parking in Redmond. Yeah, we did, 900,000 in Redmond for the Bethlehem Inn. So some of these numbers did get updated, but I do feel that we realize that we've been asking to do something outside, and such as the Gales property, and hoping that the governor will understand. We have people in Deschutes County, and it was explained yesterday, we have a lot of people that are here that are, other counties aren't really dealing with the numbers that we're dealing with. And we need to offer something outside the UGB where people that have their RVs, their pets that can't go into the Bethlehem Inn, they can't go to Shepherd's House. They, perhaps we can get them into a safe parking program. And the county's actually working on that too. What we can do with safe parking besides our land that we've used inside like the city of Redmond. So I know it's been challenging. Any comments? Did anybody else see the letter? Dan, did you get that letter last night?
Yes.
Okay. So. Any wonderful words of support from this group that I could write down? No?
I don't see any reason not to have additional tools, as many of our homeless are living in the national forest. And that is we have a beautiful national forest. That's why we have people who are willing to camp permanently in the national forest. So I'd like to hear if you all see any negatives to just having that as an option.
I think as long as it's managed, it's a good option. When it's unmanaged and we have people just camping in our forests and in our juniper and sage, we often have unintended consequences, whether it's the trash or the fire risk. But I think it's a useful tool. I don't think that it's a bad idea at all to have, like you said, multiple options available, but it's the management piece and making sure that it's handled correctly.
Absolutely,
So it doesn't
yeah.
create a bigger problem than what we have. But to say that, we have to make everybody fit into a one size fits all problem is probably not the best solution.
But, and Eric, correct me if I'm speaking out of turn here, but I know the city of Bend was in support of the original letter to the governor about this. So yes, we absolutely agree that we need flexibility to site these camps.
Okay. Oh, Eric, hi. And thank you for your response yesterday, that issue. Okay, so.
Did you say, Patty, that you've made some changes to it?
Well, no, I just went through the numbers because.
Oh, okay.
I
No, I've
added
gotten it.
400,000 for Oasis Village plus the land. Redmond safe parking was 200,000. And then Redmond was actually 900,000. And we originally did 15 cabins at the Veterans Village, and the county just added funding for another 300,000 for 7 more cabins. So, and the upgrade, let's see, St. Vincent's will be here today, and we donated 125,000 for them, 300,000 of ARPA funding for Shepherd's House in Redmond. There's so many things. We gave 450,000 to Saving Grace. They were, being impacted by COVID tremendously. And then, so those were kind of the numbers that, it's always wonderful when you have someone else and then you can read what they put in and then you can go like, oh, but I know.
Yeah, I would absolutely love to have a copy of the final
Right,
letter
we're gonna-
as well.
Yes.
Thank you.
Since all 3 commissioners are here, I'll make the changes that Patty's noted in terms of the dollar amounts, and then I'll get an updated version to the commissioners no later than tomorrow, and we can discuss it next week under other items, either Monday or Wednesday.
She broke the fourth wall. I just want to say, I did not understand that this draft letter, response letter from the county was going to be presented to the coordinated homeless response office today. I thought we were merely going to share the letter from the governor asking the questions so that people were aware and ask for the coordinated homeless response office's assistance and support in drafting our responses.
I thought Eric was really clear yesterday on what he said.
I thought I was pretty clear in what I said I thought we were doing, but I just want the coordinated homeless response office, the governing board members to know that I did not intend for us to spring a letter on you and ask you to read it in 5 minutes and react to it.
Well, I know you sent it out, at 5 or something last night?
Yeah.
I know, it's really hard, and I get what you're saying when you need things on Friday. It's always good to have the weekend to do all your research and everything, I get that, that's what I do Sunday afternoons.
Yeah.
So I
That's very
understand it
helpful.
completely,
Thank you.
and, anyway, okay.
I'll bring it back to the board next week. And again, the version that went out was a staff version. The board had not reviewed it or approved it. So it was purely a starting point from staff. So there could be changes from the Board of Commissioners.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we're gonna hold the one approval for bylaws till next. So now,
Excuse me, do we want to discuss the head nods or approvals or from our about COIC? I don't see that on the agenda, and I know that that was something we wanted to talk about today.
perhaps COIC has an update at all today? Tammy, is there anything, can you take the chair
What I
and,
think they were looking for, I think we wanted to let everybody know the result of all of us going to our own governing bodies too.
yes, that did not get on the agenda, did it?
Yeah.
Okay, here we are. We can add it. Great. So, Andrea, do you have anything from yours, sisters?
Our council agreed to this change and very hopeful and positive and looking forward to it.
Okay, Dan?
I think that we're doing fine if utilizing COIC in the manner that they work best as.
Okay. Kat?
I did bring it up as a counselor comment, and it was something that I had good feedback for, so I think we're well within our right to say we would move forward.
Megan?
I brought it up in council reports last night and got head nods from all of the enthusiastic head nods from all of the other councilors.
Were they all there?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, well, we have since we have the other two commissioners here, do we have head nods?
Actually, we did, the board took a formal vote or a minutes motion.
A minutes motion. With approval. Okay. That's right, I think we approved it first. Okay, so Tammy, the floor is yours.
Sure, so thank you for the opportunity and thank you for that extra effort to make sure that we are not getting ahead of your own councils and commission. So our next board meeting is April 3rd and this is on our agenda.
August 3rd.
No, you
Or
mean
August,
August?
sorry, August 3rd, April.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Nice long break.
Yes. We're not meeting until April, I just want to let you know. So Commissioner DeBonne is our board chair, so August 3rd. And that is on the agenda, and I have already sent the letter that you have provided for us, which was back at the end of June, and it was provided by your chair, Commissioner Adair. And so far, we've just had that as an opportunity, have had a chance to connect with our executive committee, which was a few weeks back, but really they were just looking for some sort of a nod from you that there was something formal to be asked. So more to come after the August 3rd meeting, and really appreciate the vote of confidence. And I suspect that after that, we would have another discussion about what the details might be. So,
At our meeting, hopefully next month, which is what day? Do we have a date for that?
We do, it is the 17th of August.
Okay, April 17th, right?
Yes.
Let's stay on our feet.
Yes,
So,
yes.
okay, great. So August 17th then. Okay, we all know that. Have that in your schedule, please. And
Exciting.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
thank you so much. And good luck with all your endeavors.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming today, Pat. Alrighty, so thank you, Megan, for pointing that out, that we needed that on our agenda. Now we need to talk about county heat and smoke thresholds.
You want to say?
Oh, yeah, I think that'd be great.
If you want to introduce yourselves again, please, that would be lovely. And thank you for joining us today.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Marissa Cummings. I'm a management analyst with Deschutes County Health Services Emergency Preparedness.
Excuse me. Hi, everyone. Carissa Heineke, Public Health Emergency Preparedness Coordinator for Deschutes County.
So did you guys get the jobs because you have rhyming names?
No, not intentional.
I know, I just.
I know we're Team Carissa.
Anyway, it's too cute.
Yeah. So I'll go ahead and start and just kind of walk us through the tools that we utilize when I say we, public health in coordination with Deschutes County Sheriff's Office Emergency Manager, Nathan Garabee and his team. We utilize these tools when, looking at the weather forecast, whether it's a heat event or we're talking about smoke. Really looking at these tools and trying to understand when we feel we're reaching an activation threshold to recommend either cooling centers be open during the heat event or cleaner air spaces be open during the smoke event. So I'll kind of use those terms in tandem together because it's kind of the same mindset when we're looking at some of these factors. So in terms of the heat risk, the National Weather Service developed a tool with CDC called this heat risk tool. And you guys have an explanation in the packet. It's pretty self-explanatory when looking at it, and on their website they have a map as well that coordinates the forecast, and you can do a county overlay so you can see based off the days upcoming where we're going to be in a low heat risk, yellow, medium, moderate heat risk, orange, and then obviously red and magenta. So we're kind of looking at the forecast as far as.
Do we not have the attachment available, Angie?
Oh, it was up.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure. I think this handout does a really good job of explaining. Heat risk is also relative to the person, and some individuals might have higher sensitivities when it comes to heat impact versus other individuals. Acclimation is another factor, whether you're someone who's lived in Deschutes County for a long time and maybe you're really acclimated to this type of climate and heat versus someone who maybe is visiting from a different part of the nation or world even that's not really acclimated to the temperatures here. So those are things to consider as well. For us, when we're looking at kind of when we feel like a cooling center needs to be recommended, we're looking at, again, this heat risk, so mostly when we're getting into those high, very high heat risk levels. And then duration of event is another factor. So looking at whether we're going to be having a high heat risk, very high, whether that's going to be over a 24-hour period, longer than 24-hour period, impact to the county as a whole and, you know, specific areas of the county. So those are some of the things that we're looking at, and we, you know, are trying to coordinate and look at our recommendations. When we go down to the AQI, and that's another handout in your packet. So looking at a smoke event, we again are looking at these air now, DEQ resources, looking at air quality, and usually this is in relation obviously to usually an ongoing wildfire situation. So maybe I should back up with the heat risk as well. I mean, I myself, we monitor, you know, these tools, but the National Weather Service will also, if there's looking to be a forecast for, you know, high extreme heat, they do weather briefings as well. And so we attend those to make sure that we're understanding what the potential impact is going to be to our region and making sure we're making appropriate recommendations on that. When we get into a smoke event, again, usually this is in conjunction with an ongoing wildfire situation. So there are briefings that are held between Oregon Health Authority and DEQ, Department of Environmental Quality, looking at, you know, the forecast or what's going on with the wildfire situation, looking at the smoke forecast as well and what they're anticipating as far as impact to our area. And again, looking at these different values, whether we're going to have unhealthy for sensitive groups or, you know, unhealthy, very unhealthy, hazardous levels of air, looking at what those levels are going to be like. And again, in duration of event is a factor of whether we're going to be recommending cleaner airspaces be opened for the public. Now, all this to say, again, you know, the way they've mapped these out, again, it's relative, you know, to the individual. If you have certain sensitivities, that might put you individually in that unhealthy for sensitive groups versus other people might fall within more of that, you know, general unhealthy category. So we definitely recommend that as these forecasts are coming out, that, you know, anyone in the community take actions that are appropriate to their own health concerns. So, you know, if there's going to be a moderate heat event, maybe we're not at that activation level yet for a county for us to recommend, you know, increased operations be done for cooling centers. We do strongly recommend people from the public access, public spaces, libraries, grocery centers, indoor shopping, places to get respite away from whether it's heat or smoke. So if we do approach, excuse me, one of these thresholds, whether it's for, again, heat or smoke, and we feel like, hey, yeah, we're gonna have, you know, let's take smoke, for example, really unhealthy air over the next 3 days because of this, you know, Cedar Creek fire, right, for the last year. And we feel like we need to activate what we call a cleaner air space. Then we kind of go into our coordination effort. We'll have a coordination call, myself, our county emergency manager, health officer, to kind of just be on the same page. Yes, we feel we've hit this threshold, and yes, we feel this recommendation is appropriate. Once we feel we've met that threshold, then I'll pass it to Marissa, and she's going to talk through kind of how we have worked with our service providers and community partners to identify locations that are willing to open up based on our recommendation and how we're trying to help coordinate resources. So.
Yeah, thanks. So we have identified a few sites across the county that are able and willing to host in the event of a heat or smoke event. So what would happen is basically Carissa and her team would then decide that there's a recommendation to open. She would notify me, let me know. I would then reach out to those organizations or those sites across the county, let them know, again, kind of the predicted forecast and the recommendation to open as a site. We would then ask them to respond within a certain amount of time, about 12 hours, to just let us know if they are able to, in fact, open and operate. Once we confirm those sites, we would then send out communication to all of our distribution list of service providers and health services staff to let them know that these are the sites that will be operating as well as their operating hours during that given event. We would host kind of daily coordination calls with those sites across the county, just to be able to, again, share what the predicted forecast is for the day, be able to acknowledge any challenges that happened the day prior or any anticipated challenges, maybe, for example, like if they need more water or if they need more staff to be able to operate for that given day. So we would host those coordination calls with them. We've also been working to identify with these sites, we will say, so pretty much a good faith agreement. So don't really want to share those sites right now unless they confirm that they're able to open during a given event. We would then chat with those sites. They are trusted amongst our community. So there's sites that have previously established as either a cooling center or a warming shelter in past seasons. And we also are trying to acknowledge kind of where these sites are in proximity to maybe certain areas of camps. So for example, kind of thinking of like Redmond, for example, we've tried to identify a place that is relatively close to kind of those eastern side camps. And then we would also communicate with Cascades East Transit. We've been working with them, kind of wanting to be able to better utilize their dial-a-ride program to be able to hopefully reduce a barrier of transportation getting to a site. We are wanting to also kind of capture data really to be able to understand how well these are being utilized to better prepare for future events, both in winter and in summer. So would want to just kind of understand daily how many people are accessing these sites to, again, try to see if there is an increased demand and be able to better plan for the future.
Marissa, are these sites paid for having this service, or is this like a public service?
Public service.
Public
Okay.
service,
And
yeah.
then you're pulling together transportation for people and, okay, all right, I just was wondering. you know.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, it's purely, I mean, our partners are great. They're willing to host. A lot of them have been places that have opened in the past and they're willing to do so again. Staffing would be kind of through volunteer pools of theirs that already exist. And so we're really, really thankful that they're willing to do this and open. We are definitely trying to crowdsource kind of our donation needs for them too, just understanding again that there is a lack of funding currently. So being able to do donation management and the event that we are sharing out this information that these sites will open, being able to direct people where they can drop off donations, specific donations for that event. So for heat, obviously increased sunscreen, increased water. For smoke, if anyone has N95 masks to be able to share out as well. So yeah, really kind of trying to just utilize our partnerships with these service providers. Trying to think of some potential barriers that we are trying to address. Pets, I know, is a big one. So we have identified most every site is a pet-friendly site. We also know that there are some transportations to, or there's some barriers with transportation and pets. So we do have some service providers we've chatted with about their ability to be able to transport pets to some of these sites as well. And
So CET would not transport pets in dial-a-ride?
yes, yeah. Yeah, so chatting with some of our service providers who might have that ability to be able to transport pets has been really helpful. I think that is all that we have right now. I think definitely this is kind of a growing opportunity. So again, if we do have an event and we ask places to open up, obviously once we then kind of demobilize, I think we would probably have that conversation, you know, what well, what didn't, how we can better improve for the next time.
And if you can get a press release out earlier rather than later, I think that's really critical. So people can plan and know that there's something, you know, if it's projected, that we're gonna have, you know, over 100 degrees or something.
Sure, yeah. We'll also be updating 211 as a community resource when that list is completed and finalized. So 211 would be updated as well as our social media postings, email blasts, and we can add a press release as well to our standard communication plan.
Great, thank you so much. Your timing was perfect.
I just have a really quick question. It's just for like for comparison, or not sake, for just so I can like, so last weekend, what was the heat risk?
Moderate.
It was moderate. Wow.
Yes, perception and how it feels is very different.
Yeah,
And you know,
Has it cooled
you,
down enough at night?
correct, yeah, we have, cooling at night, which is wonderful for this region, and
Yeah.
it's very, we're
Lucky
very
there.
fortunate for that. But yeah, given that that was, one of the first weekends where we hit, a peak of a higher temp, it definitely felt a lot harder than what the heat risk is quantified at.
Okay.
I wish you would have told, my horse was, her temperature was 104.1, which is really high. So I spent Saturday night hosing her off with towels and everything because, I was just like, oh my gosh, she didn't take it well at all.
Yeah, and we did actually have communication with those sites as well, just letting them know, again, at that time, at that moment, that was not, we didn't meet that level of activation, and then also communicated that with service providers as well, just mentioning that we're kind of monitoring that
So I have a
situation.
question. As we are allowing and moving more people into managed camps, say parking situations, often those RVs are not cold. And so I would imagine that even if it was moderate, the heat inside something like that would be more intensive and less tolerable. Do we have any thoughts for how we might activate sites for that?
Yeah.
Sure, I'll take that. Excuse me. So again, I think the activation thresholds we're looking at, again, is for the county population. So we definitely consider that, again, there are groups or people in certain particular situations. Maybe that's someone who's living in an RV that doesn't have air conditioning, or an older individual who doesn't have air conditioning in their home. That heat impact to them is going to be different than it is for other people. So whenever, even though we haven't maybe met a county-wide level activation to recommend a cooling center be, opened, we really strongly recommend all of the groups who serve those populations do as they see fit. So even when we tested out our communication that we had not met this activation threshold, however, here is heat education on heat exhaustion, heat stroke. Take it to your, service providers, your outreach workers, share this information widely. Do as you see fit because you know your clients best. So whether that's increased wellness checks, increased, donation management for water, if community groups, faith-based organizations want to open their doors and go through this process, we definitely encourage them and welcome them to do that. Just as far as our county level activation, we just hadn't met that threshold yet, but that's definitely a good point.
It's gonna be like 96 or something, I think, isn't it the projection? Like it's this weekend, it's supposed to get really hot again. So
It is, and if you,
anything special you're gonna be doing?
I think we're planning on doing some health education promotion as well. So through social media, things like that, around just tips on staying cool and healthy when there is heat impact. If you look at the heat risk mapping tool, it's kind of cool. You can put that county layer. It has it in low, the yellow level for the rest of this week. So again, even at a 96 temperature, it's within that lower level of heat risk. So.
Well, I want to give our service providers and our mutual aid folks a lot of praise here because, someone is in a tent, someone is in an RV. I mean, it gets so hot in there and you don't want to leave your stuff, or you can't leave your stuff and go to a cooling center, and they are going around and providing cooling packs and a lot of other, a lot of water and things like that. So that is an essential service to complement the things that you're already doing.
Yeah, and in that communication that we included as well, we did have some of that health education of just trying to be able to identify heat illness and kind of what heat exhaustion looks like versus heat stroke for any of our service providers that are doing that outreach, and kind of those signs and symptoms and notification process in doing so. And as Carissa mentioned, this is definitely, I think these are purely county recommendations, and again, we really want to empower our service providers to again support as they see fit and are able to. So
Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Thank you. I hope we got some good information out to the public that we'll be picking this up. And appreciate what you're doing together.
Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner DeVon, you're next on the agenda. And then Gary, you'll be next.
Hello, everyone. So this is just from experience, as elected official, which we all are here, trying to figure out how do we proceed and do some action, kind of a structure for it. So I have a memo and there's some spaghetti diagrams back here. But really, if you get back to the beginning of it, incident management system part of the National Incident Management System. This is best practices, researched and studied and practiced for incidents large and small all across, the country. So I'm just advocating for when this office chooses, there's going to be points where it's like, okay, there's action to be had here. Let's get everybody on the same page and let's go do something. Just action. How can we put a little structure around that? So incident command with different parts and pieces. So as I say, we don't need to study the graphics that are there, but just the main parts are operations, planning, logistics, administration, and information. So think about that. So operations, we need to go do something. We have, for the next week or next 30 days, let's go do this, an action. A planning group is a group that would say, okay, well, the operations is doing something right now. What's next? What's everybody's input to this next operation? And I'm referring to how many times have we been in a situation where we're talking about something and, though in this domain, a nonprofit or, somebody comes in and says, you can't do that. You can't do that. I want to veto this whole thing. It's like, well, no, we need your input. Please don't just tell us no. We're trying to make a decision and move forward. So incident command system is what I'm advocating for here. When action starts to happen. So the planning, the group, logistics, who's got what resources, how can we help the operations happen? Finance, very specifically, who's spending money, how much, how many times have we been asked, how much has been spent on homeless? It's like, well, you just added some items to that letter and we're not keeping a real good track. Chris, I know, has a spreadsheet, you shared it. These are the numbers that we know of here right now. So if we kind of start to practice an incident command, all of a sudden, everybody knows how to fit in. And I'm talking about everybody, every nonprofit, anybody that has an opinion. The city of Bend recently did the Hunnell Road, and then a service provider representative joined with a couple residents, bring it to court, which is fine. We need to do this kind of stuff, but maybe we can have some of those discussions up front. If there's services for 3 people, an operation might be, let's pick the 3 or 5 groups at Hunnell Road that, want accommodations, need extra support. How do we call that an operation and find places for 5 people? And maybe the rest of the folks can find their own way. And I'm just throwing out scenarios on the fly here. So think about this. We're talking about bringing in coordinated homeless office with administration under COIC. And I don't know exactly what that means, and I'll be on the receiving end of that as the COIC board member. But you're elected officials also, and when action happens, where does it go? So this is what I'm presenting today. The other thing, we get back to it, incident command. Something's happening right now. The forest is on fire. Let's get out there, protect who we can, or how we slow this thing down. And incidents happening now. Incident recovery. The effects of the incident that just happened, what are we going to do for incident recovery? The people that are affected, the environment that's affected, how are we going to be, cleaning up after the fact? Long-term recovery, like we saw in the state of Oregon, we had a fire that went, from high desert down the valley and burned lots and lots of houses and communities even. There's long-term recovery that needs there. So that's what these other graphics ended up. This was provided by somebody and we just included it. But when you start connecting everything to everything, there's a place for everybody that has an opinion about this. So that's really the message today. There's professionals that know how to do incident management. As I say, our forest fire response system, the national forest, state fire agencies, and local agencies, they know how to snap into place when these things happen. So this is a proposal just to, maybe it's a starting point for action when things happen, when we really, start to get the pieces aligned. This is how people plug in. So I just wanted to share this with everybody.
Hi, I have a couple things. First of all, I guess I really struggled because homelessness is not an incident, and I just struggled with that word. I don't think we should refer to it as an incident. I don't see on these graphs or anything like where is the coordinated office. They're not even on any of these graphs. I see the Board of County Commissioners at the top, and I don't see where they are. I don't see where service providers are. And I'm confused about if you're referring to just the unsheltered population that you'd like to see this for, or for all of the work that the coordinated office does? Can you sort of clarify?
So I would just say that I'm advocating for best practices, and you can create the structure as you do it. If you do just the ICS 100 incident command system, ICS 100, it talks about either there's an incident and one incident commander, or there's multiple jurisdictions and a joint incident command. So it's very adaptable. So I'm not going to be able to answer those questions, but I would say that the structure is adaptable for however you want to use it. So I'm not making any of those decisions up front. I'm not saying you have to use any specific structure. But if you think about it, an operation could be anything. Now, I'm not putting parameters around it. It could be anything. You know, tomorrow we're going to go do cooling for some people, or in the next 3 months we're going to open up 50 acres for X amount of people. An operation, very generic. Planning is putting that operation thing together. We know that their heat's coming, so the planning group says let's ask incident command to put an operation for cooling at a specific site. So it's very generic.
So I think to step it back, because we've already kind of talked about project management and having different teams and project, and this is not really the same. It's the same and not. I mean, I think that our words are a little bit less inflammatory, or treating it like it's a disaster, and treating it like it's a job that we've got a team of people working on. It's the same idea though, of having operations, financial capability and that. So I appreciate
Well, yeah,
the delineation
change the terminology.
and
I'm not coming
similarities.
with that.
So, but we've talked about a team and a project platform, which I think is what you'll see coming forward as being on the COIC board.
Great. Well,
I'm trying to remember, wasn't something similar to this that involved, working with service providers and sort of a emergency approach proposed a few years ago? Or I'm trying to remember.
Tammy's shaking her head, yes,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
Yes.
There was, sure, and I think there's a, thank you again, Tammy COIC. Hi. I think there's a synergy between all the things that you're maybe talking about, and there was a co-ed position, if you might recall, which is very nicely married in with public health and emergency response, but it was a resilience planner person who was able to really help tie.
Working with Nathan Garvey.
Yes.
So that was right before COVID. I mean, think about it, we're kind of full circle back to, okay, how do we get organized for this? As I say, I'm not trying to push any buttons or use the wrong terminology. I'm just talking about best practice and, experience.
So there was a fair amount of legwork done to bring something like that to life, and so happy to dust off those documents and maybe.
Well, that's where those spaghetti diagrams came from. in fact,
So there could be an opportunity here to maybe leverage all of it together, so.
Yes, because we did have, we had downstairs full yesterday with people from our community a lot of people are really worried about what is happening in China Hat. And they're dealing with, gunshots and fires practically on a daily basis. So, definitely having a team is a good idea for a strategy in the future or sooner than that. But I would say dust off the documents and see what we actually had. I know we are so lucky in Deschutes County that we do have Nathan Garvey. And so appreciate what he does when there is something that he needs to respond to. Such as that fire we had in August of, 2020, right next to the Four Seasons mobile home park with a lot of very vulnerable people there. And, what did it burn, like 39 acres or something in Juniper? So, we definitely need to be always doing the very best we can, be prepared. That's what I really believe the collaboration in Deschutes County is outstanding. So. Yeah.
Excellent. If I may offer a couple of additional points. The co-ed position was supported also by Crook and Jefferson County as well. And there also was a opportunity to tie in, and Commissioner Adair, this might be of interest to you, that the Central Oregon Health Council was involved too. So
good.
Being able to use other community resources that we could leverage to possibly support something like this. And then, as we all know, natural disasters or issues that would impact those that are unhoused. So there's the possible immediacy about the concerns and wellness of individuals that are currently in camps, but also conversely, the impact to them when a natural disaster occurs. Those disasters don't really care about county lines or city boundaries. And so making sure that everyone is well coordinated, I think, was one of the basic tenets of this effort that was proposed.
Great.
Can't wait
Thank
to
you for
see
that
it. Thank you.
clarification.
I would, if I may, I would like to sort of jump off what you're saying, and see if we can come at this a little bit differently. In addition to the work that you've already done on COAD, we are in like a really serious state of emergency right now. I am extremely worried that what is happening in our community, in our region, is untenable. We had someone that got mauled to death at Juniper Ridge a couple of days ago. We have fires in China Hat. We have people that are needing to be moved from place to place. We have an 80% unsheltered rate. Things are getting to the point where we are headed for a disaster. I mean, this is a disaster. We are in an emergency. And what I would like to suggest, when you have an emergency, you talk about triaging, right? Like what can we do immediately to make the situation better? And I would like to suggest that the coordinated office convenes some form of an emergency roundtable where we have the Forest Service, we have the cities, the counties, emergency response teams. We all come together and talk about how we are going to triage the situation, because it is getting worse and worse, and people are unsafe, people are dying. We have smoke, we have heat, we have violence, and we have no place to put people. And I think that the coordinated office, if they could just bring us all together in a room and we talk about how we can triage the situation, and start working together and coordinate efforts, I think that would be a really key next step. I know that we are all very, very concerned about what is happening in our community right now. And I think I would like to see us all really come together in an emergency environment and talk about how we can handle this as the true emergency that it is, and how we can all, through our government bodies, jointly declare a state of emergency. Because if you look at what a state of emergency is, we are there. And so I just wanted to throw that out there and see if there was any thoughts from the governing board, any thoughts from you, Chris, or from you, Tammy, about how that could, if you were in favor of doing something like that.
Well, I am going to the governor. I'm going to Salem a week from tomorrow. And I'm hoping to meet with the governor, because we do have such an emergency, and we do need to have a managed camp that is outside the city, managed with rules, but managed. And, is the governor gonna help pay for that? I don't know, but we desperately need that. So having this group meet before I go over to Salem would be really honestly beneficial, if that's at all possible. I don't know, what do you think? Andrea, do you think that's something you feel? To me, it's important to bring collaboration, bringing everybody together. I've been on the phone with, the head of the Forest Service from Portland,
They don't know what to do.
Well,
I mean,
no,
I
they think
mean,
everything is, they think we're still collaborating. And it's such a nightmare. So anyway, I would really appreciate having that meeting before, if that's at all
So
possible.
what are the odds of getting all the players at the table to have that discussion? Because it sounds like we do need to have someone from ODFW, we need to have somebody that's in charge of BLM, because all of this,
management for the county.
parks, and all the crossover pieces. I think it's critical that we have those discussions if they're not having already been had, which I feel like everybody thinks somebody else is doing it. So maybe hearing what is and isn't getting done is the first step, and treat it again like the emergency it is. And I think that will add a little bit of power to the request of the county for what you're asking for your camp.
Is it possible to just pull a Zoom meeting next Thursday?
I'm happy to put together a Zoom
I don't know,
meeting.
does that work for any of you guys? Or Tuesday? Tuesday's not very long.
Not very long.
Yeah, next Thursday would be better if
It's
we
not
could
very
pull,
long.
I mean, far,
Oh,
not
oh,
enough
not
notice.
very long. Oh, I didn't know what you meant.
We don't give enough
That's a
notice.
shorter day.
So what about what about pulling together something next Thursday?
I mean, we have to check with all the players.
So next Thursday, I actually am not available. I've got follow-up medical appointments for my mom, but I could do it early in the morning.
So,
Make
so
it at
why,
8 a.m. I'm
what are
available.
you thinking that we would accomplish at this meeting that would be helpful for your reading with the governor? The governor's
That
staff.
we actually think it is so critical at this point in time that we all pull together all the players at this moment in time. We have pulled everybody here and we actually need the state's help in letting us provide a managed camp, which is outside the UGB, which the governor has said no to. We desperately need that because we have people that
So you're
won't go
looking for
elsewhere.
a support
Right.
from
The whole
all these
entire county.
entities of the specific
Well,
issue
yeah, I mean,
of
I don't-
managed camps outside the county.
That was
I
not
mean,
my
outside
intent
the
by this whole
UGB.
thing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Well, it
a
is an
piece of-
emergency.
It's a
It
piece
is-
of the puzzle, sure.
It's definitely an emergency.
Absolutely.
We're walking a tightrope with the fires, hearing about all the bullets whizzing by people's heads, yesterday.
Yeah.
And then having the death of that homeless man by 3 pit bulls. I mean, clearly,
Yeah, I
things
mean, we
are in a really bad way.
I think that it gives power to any conversation that anybody has. If we can all say that we have come together, we agree that this is an emergency and we agree we are working together to triage, to look at short and long-term solutions.
Right.
I think that's another key component of this. And it's valuable for anything that we're doing, whether the governor is involved or not. I mean, that was my,
Well, it would be great to
Feeling
have
behind it.
support from the top and recognize that every county is unique and Deschutes definitely has its unique characteristics that
yes,
we need some help with.
yes.
And it would be great to have the state come in and do that help. Tammy?
Can I offer just, I think you are on a great track of highlighting the urgency. The pieces that come to mind for me might be checking with your emergency managers across the region and because I know that they're having pre-fire meetings, they're having a variety of these types of coordinating meetings and see how best to structure. But I wonder if it would make sense to maybe contact the leads of BLM, ODF and others, letting them know that you are, intend to declare an emergency, but at the same time run concurrent a letter of support that maybe then, so you're not basing your timing next week and availability on being able to get communication to the governor. You'd be setting up a meeting at a time where you can have the right people to have the
that's
right
more
conversation, but also getting everyone in alignment of what you are intending to do as well, as an idea.
And then the hope would be that, Chris, you could help with bringing us all together and finding a date and a time, but.
And routing a letter that you
Yes.
approve, we could even support in helping to
But wait
draft.
until the end of August isn't the answer when everyone could be there, or the end of September or something. I mean,
Oh,
honestly,
yeah.
we're on a tightrope right now.
And the other player is the Forest Service.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, emergency managers,
Yeah.
Forest Service, I mean, that was the idea that it wouldn't just be the 5 of us, that we could do that in a regular meeting, but this is an emergency. And yeah, I mean, whoever we thought else would be important to be there, I'm sure we can keep thinking of people, but I mean.
No, it's just like Fire Free that, you came to the one meeting, Megan. To me, everybody, all the city leaders should be at that Fire Free meeting because the information that you get from that meeting is so critical to, when you live in Deschutes County, when you are at the higher end of fire risk, you need to know what you should be doing. So it's, it all kind of all falls together.
May I suggest as a next step to have the Crow board meet again to talk about maybe the structure of the meeting rather than,
Okay.
I mean, if we
Yeah,
have a
'cause
meeting with.
we're running out of
invited
time.
everybody, Might be better just to have meeting next week with the Crow Board to plan out what would be discussed and
Quick
goals.
Zoom meeting.
Do a Zoom meeting next week, is
Yeah.
that okay?
A Zoom.
That's fine.
All right.
In the meantime, if you align your calendars of what availability you have,
Yeah.
and maybe, I don't want to direct Chris, but I'll be your partner in crime, but we can then set, because then you can start to look at the calendar and start getting that set while you're determining what you want as your outcome.
Great. Okay, so next Thursday Zoom. Early, is that what I heard? Really early? What's early, 8 AM? Did you hear that, Dan?
Yes, 8 a.m. works on Thursday.
Okay, fabulous.
Wait,
Wait for
I
Megan.
haven't checked my. Yes. Okay, I can do that.
Andrew, are you okay on that one? Okay, so unanimously, okay.
Alright.
Thanks, Chris, I hope that's good for you.
It is good for me.
Okay,
And it's only for one item.
right,
Yes.
yes. Gary, I'm so sorry.
Okay, so in 3 minutes, right?
Yes, you have-
No, thank you all for letting me come today and just showcase what we're doing at St. Vincent de Paul. So we've started St. Vincent's Place, which operates 10 sleeping units, a community building with showers, kitchen and laundry, and then a site manager's home. And that's all on about a third of an acre, cost us about $750,000 to build. So we have 10 people living there now. And it is a high barrier shelter, so people living there have some expectations put on them. They come in signing a contract, agreeing to case management, to be on site between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. No drugs or alcohol with random UAs, and to take direction from case managers. And essentially, in addition to that, it's pretty simple. It's get a job, work, and save money. And so we meet monthly with each person individually and set goals as far as a lot of these people have maybe don't even have a lot of experience in setting a budget or even creating a list of things they need to accomplish to get from here to there. So we're looking at life goals as well as financial goals and propping them up. And I have to say, in the short period of time we've been operating, we've got one person who's already graduated and moved into permanent housing. We've got one more waiting for housing, and we're about a month away because I've got a spot for him, but it's just not ready yet. And 2 more that are close to ready. So I think what we're doing, I mean, it's narrow, 10 people, and we're calling it.
What did you start? What was your open date? I can't remember.
It was November. So November of this last year,
Okay, 22.
22, yeah.
Okay, great. So you're doing an outstanding job then.
Yeah, so a few have already like I said, one's already graduated, 2 are sitting ready. So, and the main thing I noticed is a change in attitude. So everybody's really, they are so proud to tell me how much they've saved, because a lot of them have never had a savings account. So it's really, I think, proving to be a really good solution, even though it's narrow. So I'm already looking at potentially a location for a second camp. or village.
How did you pick who got to stay?
So we have an application process and then an interview process. And most people that interview get in line to be moved in. And so, it's not a high barrier to get in. I mean, aside from agreeing to the contract, which says no drugs or alcohol and random UAs. But the questions on our interview are, what was the best thing you did this week? What was your favorite experience last month? Just to get people to talk about their life and how they're engaged. It's mostly just a desire to move forward is all we're looking for in the interview. And so pretty much it's a low bar if you get that far. And we're taking referrals from case managers at Bethany M.N. and at the Stabilization Center, which is the Institute of Behavioral Health, and from Central Oregon Thrive and Lighthouse, and then people that are walk-ins at St. Vincent de Paul. So those are the entry points. And any other suggested that I haven't heard of, we would probably take an application from, but those are the places that we try to recruit from. But I'm really hopeful that if other organizations can pick up something similar to this, we could start to see, one with 10, and we're calling it a 2-year program, but honestly, I see it as a 1-year program because if you're asking somebody to save, $5,000, they should be able to do that in 6 to 8 months, really, because we're only charging no rent, a small operation fee. And even our operation costs is about $75,000 a year, and that includes salaries, utilities, maintenance and upkeep, and the matching savings program that we're offering people. So, they say 5,000, we'll match 3,000 towards rent. So they have 6,000 towards rent and 2,000, to get established in that house. And Furnish Hope has agreed that our people are homeless because it is an emergency shelter. And so their parameters for helping people is moving from homelessness to housing. And so they furnished completely the first person we moved out. So that saved him a lot of money. So,
Megan's really wonderful, isn't she? I mean, the
Yes.
program is amazing.
oh, yeah, no,
Yeah, so thankful.
yeah.
Now, will you, if you're looking for a land in another spot, do you want to keep it with 10? Do you feel that that's a comfortable?
No, I would like to expand it. Actually, so there's another piece of property on the corner of where we are. And we've been trying to acquire, we've not had any luck getting through to the owners. It's a house that's been sitting vacant for a year. So I have a feeling it's tied up in something like
Probate?
that. Yeah,
Trust them, yeah.
yeah, and so we're just waiting. It's with Bendon and Sweet being, in play right now with COIC. It would be the entire block if we could get that house on the corner. And that could add another, 5 to 8 units potentially. So, yeah.
And you said your operation fee was 75,000 for the year then?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So it's we're treating it almost like an Oxford house in the sense that there's not a lot of supervision. So we have 30 hours a week of salary, for a site manager and a community health and resource manager. And that's it, aside from, maintenance and upkeep, insurance and utilities. And then we provide also a small amount like toilet paper and toiletries and things like this. And then we're charging, our operation fee, House Bill 2006 allows us to charge an operation fee up to $300. So we're doing 0 to 3 months at nothing, and 3 to 6 at 100, 6 to 12 months at 200. And then the second year, if they're still there, would be at 300. But I would really hope that most people don't make it into that second year. And so our problem going forward is going to be being able to find housing, because we have our other housing, which we're moving people from, the village into that, and we're calling that phase 2. But at some point, I'm hoping that we're going to be graduating people at a rate greater than we can accommodate in phase 2. But that's another problem that's a good problem to have, and we just need to find more housing, so. Yeah.
Wonderful.
So in each of these tiny units, do they have independent cooking facilities?
They do
or-
not, they're 9 by 11, there's no running water, and that's what the community building is for.
Okay.
It's got 4 bathrooms, 2 with showers, laundry facilities, and a kitchen. And then the site manager's house, it's just outside the fence. And we have an 8-foot fence, and the purpose of that was more to give security to the people inside rather than, And when you're moving from your room to the bathroom at 2 in the morning, you want to know that it's a safe environment,
Yeah.
so.
They're really lovely little spaces.
And I meant to bring some
Yeah.
photos, I just.
Sunny and, yeah,
No, yes,
they don't feel like you're, in a
Okay.
box,
Yeah.
they're really nice.
And the two things that people acquire immediately after moving in is privacy and safety, so you can immediately feel secure. You go into that room and shut that door on that first day, and I imagine, you're just overwhelmed with that sense of security and safety, so.
and you only take men,
No, men and women, yeah.
men and women,
And
any
right now, it's
children?
got a 6-4 ratio, so,
6'4",
yeah.
okay.
The goal
6
was
men?
5'5", of course, but and 7'3" on the outside would be the worst, but,
Okay,
equal representation, so.
wonderful. My gosh, well, thank you for.
Any
that.
blowback from the surrounding community?
We have had, it's very quiet, I think we've had the police there twice since we've opened. And I meant to go around and talk to the neighbors, I haven't yet. I was gonna try to get some feedback, maybe sending them a self-addressed stamped envelope, because honestly, it's very quiet. And whenever we see a trailer parked outside in our neighborhood, we're on it, calling. We just can't have that, we can't have an association with, so.
Great, thank you so much.
Oh, yeah.
Gary, may I ask one question?
Oh,
As you think about expanding and finding ways to, move people through the pipeline, do you have any ideas on ways that the CHRO can help you?
Well, my thought was if we could get other organizations to try to do what we're doing, so it's not us alone in there. I mean, the only reason we were able to do this is because we have other housing. And so right now, that's what we're looking at, is expanding our housing. I would like to eventually be maybe buying a house, renting rooms out. So that could operate similar to an Oxford house, where you could have sober living. And under landlord tenant, there is an exception for sober living. So you can evict somebody in 72 hours if they abused. And that's the only way we could operate, so that this, sobriety of everybody else in the house would still be maintained. But that's the only expansion. I don't know where You tell me, what help could be offered?
No, it's okay. If you think of anything, think of us as a resource to help you. But I think that I don't want to speak on behalf of the board. I'm not
That's okay,
speaking on
Chris.
behalf of myself, but just, we're really committed to helping expand service providers' capacity. So if there are things that are getting in the way of you doing your job, let us know.
Oh, okay. No, that's great. And the other asset we had was oh my gosh, they stepped in as our general contractor and they were incredible at bringing in services below cost. They did some of the stuff pro bono, and then they brought in subcontractors at discounted rates. It was Hayden Homes that really helped us get through what we did. And then of course, Bill Chang there helping us secure those funding. I really appreciated that.
The whole board voted in support of that.
Oh, great. Yeah, that was wonderful. Those were
It's
very nice.
$125,000 to be exact.
Yeah, I thought it was more than that. We said.
No, that's what I just looked up this morning because,
Okay.
yeah, I believe that's what it was.
Okay, great. Thank you all. That was great. That was helpful.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
joining us.
Thanks, Gary.
We
Thanks
do
for all
need
you're doing.
5 minutes of public comments right now at the end of our meeting. I know we've run a few minutes late, but it was incredibly important. Do we have anybody, Angie, online?
No one's raised their hand yet.
Okay.
Message.
Summer vacation. No raised hands? Okay, so we know we're gonna meet next Thursday morning at 8 o'clock on Zoom in order to put together a meeting for future regarding the emergency situation that we are dealing with here and to help with the collaboration between all the different agencies such as US Forest Service, ODF and W, everyone here that's ODF, excuse me. Anyway, thank you guys. So no raised hands? Are there some comments that we need to read?
That was just me reaching out to them.
Okay, all right. Thank you all.
Thank you.